Hello, greetings, and welcome back to another episode in our monthly roundup series. Taking a look at just the very best mods from Morrowind released each month. We're still getting, a bit caught up on 2024. I've been sick a few times this year, so we've got quite a bit of catching up to do. And today we'll be taking a look at just the best mods released from Morrowind in March of 2024. And good heavens, March was a pretty exciting month for the Morrowind modding community. About 126 new mods for Morrowind were released in March, and there were just an absolute ton of major mod releases. An absolute plethora of new quests and adventures, stunning new landscape overhauls, new animation mods, new vehicle mechanics, a new gardening and farming mod, new islands to explore, and far more besides. As always, we'll only be showcasing 5 of those mods here today, though you can see a handful of other just notable mod releases here in the background. And, of course, as always, links for everything can be found just right down below. March was also a major month for mod updates, and like in our previous episodes, you'll find a highlight reel of notable major mod updates after the top 5. Check out the timestamps down in the video description to jump to each segment. But anyway, with all that said, let's begin with the best mods of March 2024. And we're going to kick things off, not with a mod, but with a utility. For while there were many amazing mods released in March, it has to be mentioned that the utility Polox Load Order Sorter by rFuso may have actually been the biggest new release for the month. Certainly it's an incredible resource that's particularly worth mentioning here, as it's an evolution of Immox, a load order tool to sort mod lists and detect conflicts, supporting both the vanilla game engine as well as OpenMW, and also, apparently, Cyberpunk 2077. As a utility, it's not exactly, the easiest thing for us to showcase, but I did want to give it a quick mention, as it is just, well worth your time to check out, and it's a great resource for sorting your load order. With that said though, let's hit up our top 5 of the month, starting with a trio of quest mods from Volta, including the Avity Pipe Emporium, collecting the 36 Lessons of Vivec, and the Buoyant Homages. Volta has quickly become one of the community's most prolific quest modders, and that was on full display in March, with 3 separate quest mods, and 2 of them on the more meaty side, with lots of new adventures and quest lines for you to pursue. Now, we've showcased the Avity Pipe Emporium before, but for those that missed it, the Avity Pipe Emporium adds a new, gorgeous, and atmospheric shop to the city of Saran, complete with a new, just rather lengthy questline, which starts out, at first, to just help establish the new shop owners, and then to help build a new criminal syndicate, one to rival the Thieves Guild and Kimona Tong. Along the way, you'll go on new adventures, visit new locations, even get into the occasional fight. Though most of these quests do tend to involve more persuasion and deduction than the typical hack-and-slash approach of so many other quest mods. All 3 mods are designed to integrate, and indeed enhance, the vanilla game. They're lore-friendly and vanilla-friendly, tying in with existing vanilla quests and personalities with unique experiences. The Avity Pipe Emporium is probably the largest of these 3, with a questline that could just about take you hours to finish. But the Buoyant Homages, while a shorter mod overall, also has a fair bit of content, fleshing out an otherwise set-piece faction that you couldn't previously join. Chances are you still won't actually be able to join them. They're an elite faction. They only accept recruits from the Tribunal Temple and Great Houses Redorin and Enduro. But if you do, you'll find lots of new dialogue, new quests to help safeguard against the rising 6-house threat, and new reasons to explore Red Mountain and the Malaga Mer. There's even just a neat little quest to survive 3 days and nights atop Red Mountain itself, with a cozy little hideout, and if you're using Ashfall, this could be a real challenge. The final mod, collecting the 36 Lessons of Vivec, is a more straightforward collectathon quest mod, but it again includes an atmospheric new addition to the temple, and provides you with a new incentive to just hunt down all 36 volumes of the Lessons of Vivec. Combined, there's no question this is just a fantastic set of new quests and adventures, and some of the biggest new releases for March. It's also part of a continuing trend that we've seen throughout 2024, with an unprecedented number of new quest mods, the vast majority of which have been designed in this lore and vanilla-friendly style, meant to enhance the base game and the lore within it. It has arguably just never been a better time to be a fan of new quests and adventures. And now that we've had our fun with a more lore-friendly selection, how about a mod that's perhaps just a little less so? For our next notable release is the terrifying survival horror of Five Nights at Fargoths by Conceit. A remake of the famed Steam game franchise of Morrowind, Five Nights at Fargoths is an unexpected crossover, and by all rights, it really shouldn't work, and yet somehow it does. And indeed, it is arguably just a perfect translation of this famed survival horror, changing out the characters for those of our fine, strangely menacing, occasionally cannibalistic Bosmiri friends, but otherwise just managing to integrate the exact same mechanics for a truly terrifying and, yes, a stressful experience. Arrgh! Five Nights at Fargoths adds a new, Bosmiri-themed, family-friendly restaurant and entertainment establishment to the outskirts of Saran. And, as it so happens, they have a job opening for a night watchman, to keep an eye on the ornery, simulated, conjured Bosmiri nightmares that roam these halls. The menacing, grinning faces with far too many teeth of Fargoth, Galbadir, Tarheel, and Gaynor poking through the shadows. The questline lasts for 5 nights, each one becoming progressively more difficult. And just like the games are based on, you'll be given a security system to keep an eye on things. But beware, switching cameras costs power, turning on the lights costs power, and even closing the doors, for some strange reason, given that Morrowind is a medieval-ish society with wooden doors that would normally close, you know, manually, that also costs power, and you only have a limited amount each night. Make it to 6 AM without the power going off, and you'll survive. Don't, and you'll find a nasty little Bosmiri surprise waiting in the dark. The movements of these 4 Bosmiri constructs are random, and you'll see them appear and disappear from various rooms. But just make sure they don't get too close. The tension just really ramps up in the final nights as these constructs become ever more active, and the scripting work just has to be applauded. Somehow, Conceit has managed to just fully integrate the Five Nights minigame format into Morrowind, all with regular old vanilla Morrowind scripting. No fancy MWC or OpenMW Lua scripts required, and it makes for a truly terrifying experience. And for that reason, I think it is just especially worthy of commendation as one of the best mods of March 2024, even if it is Again, perhaps, not necessarily the most lore-friendly mod out there. But, hey, let's move on to something just a bit different. With the gameplay mod Immersive Vehicles, Sailable Boats by rFuso. Now, full confession here, sailing mods have always been a favourite of mine, going all the way back to Morrowind's first golden age in the early aughts. Mods like Ultimate Galleon, Sail and Sail Galleon, and Fishing Academy were must-haves when I was playing back in my youth. There is nothing better than the thrill of heading out onto the open seas with my own vessel, a ton of landmass mods installed alongside, and travelling from place to place, taking a boat to shore and experiencing countless new adventures. Those memories from that classic age of Morrowind modding have a lot of nostalgia for me. But between the mid-aughts and early 2020s, new sailing and vehicle mods were rare and far in between. Not until Sails and Sails in 2022 did we get a new sailing mod. And now, a scant year and a half later, we've got another one, with rFuso's Immersive Vehicles Sailable Boats. While Sails and Sails provided new vessels for you to ply the seas with, particularly cargo ships and longboats, Immersive Vehicles focuses more on smaller craft, gondolas, skiffs, small fishing craft, and Telvanni haulers. And unlike Sails and Sails, which had a limited number of locations where you could buy said craft, Immersive Vehicles allows you to purchase ships at just any port and harbour in Morrowind, or Terry built. Just ask a shipmaster about buying a boat, and, if there's enough space, it'll appear in the water automatically. And not only that, but if you have Ashfall, you can actually craft your own boats, gathering the materials and then building a ship just right there on the shores of the sea, and sailing it out onto the horizon. As far as I know, this is the only sailing mod that actually lets you craft your own boats, which is just, such a neat experience. In total, there's about 5 different vessels that you can either purchase or craft. And again, they're largely smaller ships, like rowboats, gondolas, mushroom gondolas, small sailboats, and the largest of them is the Telvanni hauler. So, there's a nice bit of variation here. You can enter and leave these vessels at any time, with full controls for speed, so you can go fairly fast. And the vessels do have some just light swaying animations. Though in the case of the rowboat, the animation maybe isn't quite as nice as the rowboats from Sails and Sails, which have actual rowing animations. But still, it's another great sailing add-on. And the only real downside is that, unlike Sails and Sails, which provides cargo containers with your sailboats, Immersive Vehicles has no container options. So, it's just the boat and no storage. Regardless, it is still just a lot of fun, and it is a really neat sailing mod that's worth noting. This mod is still in development though. There's plans to add both land-based and flying mounts at some point in the future. But in the meantime, as a fan of all things sailing, I recommend checking it out for yourself. Next up, for our penultimate set of mods, we have 2 landscape overhauls, with Malagamo Mountains by Marquand, and A River of Fire, also by Marquand. Long-time viewers of this channel know that I have something of a fondness for all things verticality, so it won't come as too much of a surprise that a mountain mod, that epitome of vertical landscape features, should appear so prominently on this list. For Malagamo Mountains is an absolute transformation, a scenic visual delight of vertical vistas in the Land of Fire. But I am, perhaps, just getting a tad ahead of myself. So let's begin with what these mods are. Both of these mods by Marquand are landscape overhauls. Malagama Mountains, as the name suggests, adds more mountainous peaks to the Malagama, with great pillars of stone pinpricking the sky, while a River of Fire overhauls the Foyeda Ashadan, one of the smallest Foyedas in the vanilla game, and one that previously had no actual locations within it. It's been overhauled and transformed here into a truly unique location, as the now only Foyeda with an active river of lava descending from Red Mountain. Both of these mods make for just a magical transformation of the landscape of the Malagama, one of Morrowind's most isolated and desolate regions. But in that desolation, there is a rugged beauty, and with this pair of mods, that beauty is fantastically enhanced, giving you a new sense of awe as you explore the Malagama. And yes, this does make navigation just a wee bit more difficult. You'll want to bring some potions of levitation to get around. And also, yes, this is obviously compatible with Kalanta's The Mountain of Fear, which overhauls Mount Khand, and even the Terror of Tel Mir, which adds a new mountain near the Arabian Instant camp. All in all, Marquand has simply done it again with another amazing pair of landscape and landmark mods. And like with so many of Marquand's other mods, I consider these two to be a must-have. Finally, we have one last mod in our top 5. And that's a new location mod, with the beautifully scenic Shroomdeliers and a Fisherwoman by Kalanta and Dimnucent. This is, by far and away, the smallest mod in today's top 5. At least, you know, in terms of scope and scale. But it's a really neat little addition, adding some more character and alien beauty to the Sarfirable Bay, with a set of new, atmospheric travel services and landmarks. In essence, this mod adds a new gondola network that provides a fast travel service between Seraph Mora, Tel Rune, and Tel Fir, using the fantastic Shroomdela assets by Dimnucent. Now, you know, this is hardly the only fast travel mod that connects Tel Fir to the rest of the Telvanni shipping lanes. But it is just the most aesthetically fitting for the Telvanni, blending in naturally with that alien mushroom style that the Telvanni Mage Lords have. But that's not the only new addition here. There's also a new dock for Tel Fir, which notably looks just particularly nice with the Sorrow-Hearted Tel Fir. Other new additions include Telvanni buoys that mark the sailing paths between settlements. And, you know, while this was probably meant as a simple atmospherical detail, they're actually pretty useful for navigating through the Sarfirable Bay. You know, if you're, you know, like me, trying to sail through with one of the boats from Immersive Vehicles. As you can see here, you can easily follow a path from one buoy to another to each of these settlements at the Sarfirable Bay. Particularly handy if, you know, like me, you have Marquand's Azura's Coast Redone installed, which just adds a lot more mountainous terrain to the bay here, making it a wee bit more difficult to spot those potential shipping routes between islands. But speaking of shipping routes, you'll now find a Telvanni fishing boat just off the coast to Tel Rune, a mid-sized vessel capable of hauling in some larger fish. An immersive addition, because even the Telvanni must have some more mundane industries, like fishing, if only to put food on the table for, you know, the common folk. Certainly, this is just a pretty small mod overall. But while it may be small, it has a sizable atmospheric impact, fleshing out the world of Morrowind, and I think it is just a simply delightful addition to the game. But that's the last of our top 5 here, so you know what that means. It's time to move on to the major update highlights of March 2024. And we'll begin with the companion mod, Arvessa and Armiger's Tale by Orion. updated to 1.0 on March 28th of 2024, and followed up with updates to version 1.01, 1.02, and 1.03 on March 28th, 30th, and 31st respectively. One of the largest companion mods from Morrowind, Arvessa adds a new Point Armature companion that you'll encounter as part of the Morrowind main quest. And similar to companion mods like Julian, she has her own personal quests, comments on your activities, especially relating to the main quest, a unique personality, and a relationship they can develop over time. Version 1.0 and consequent updates adds a lot of new content and features, from full main quest integration, including the last leg of the main quest from the Cavern of the Incarnate to the final battle of Dagthir, and lots of new tweaks and bug fixes, new dialogue, new voice lines, and a full integration of the mod Dagthir fleshed out, overhauling the final dungeon, which you may recall was one of our top mods of January 2024. There is honestly just quite a bit here, and with this latest update, you can play with Arvessa from the beginning of the main quest all the way to the end, with lots of interactions and choices for you to make, with new locations to visit, like a new Point Armature stronghold in the Ashlands, and new dungeons for you to encounter, as you develop a bond with your travelling companion. Orion has been working on this mod since at least 2020, or thereabouts, and this is one of the largest updates, to be released just yet. It is honestly just one of the most impressive companion mods from Morrowind. I've been meaning to do a proper showcase of it for ages, but, for now, just suffice to say, this update adds a lot of new content to an already just rather massive mod. Now, while we're on the subject of companion mods, that brings me to our next update. For Rapport, OpenMW Companions by Large Outer Reef was updated to version 3.2 on March 9th of 2024, adding new features and bug fixes. Rapport allows you to hire NPCs as companions, any NPCs with up to 10 in a party. They have basic companion features like information on health and magic status, companion share, and automatic sneaking, levitation, and water walking. And this latest update adds even more companion features, with new companion equipment control and some other dialogue additions. If you're looking for an OpenMW companion mod, it's certainly one to take a look at. Moving on to some just landmark mods though, we next have Saran Ashlands Barrier by Marquand, updated to version 1.1 on March 18th of 2024. One of the rare, scenic, verticality galore landmark mods by Marquand that we somehow haven't showcased yet. Saran Ashlands Barrier adds a proper mountain range between the city of Saran and the Ashlands, giving the city a dramatic visual backdrop that is simply beautiful to behold, an excellent enhancement to the jewel of the Ascadian Isles. Version 1.1, in particular, adds some new environmental rock detailing around the mountain, making this scenic landscape edition just even more striking than it was before. Next, we have the landscape, landmark, and dungeon mod, Kogaroon, Extinct City of Ash and Sulfur by D-Manufacturer 87, which was updated to version 2.9 on March 8th of 2024. This mod has certainly seen just quite a few different iterations. I believe it originally started out as an exterior overhaul for Kogaroon, but it's grown just well past that, overhauling the interiors of Kogaroon and making some rather massive landscape changes around Kogaroon, with lots of new ruins, mushroom groves, and other new terrain additions, which do blend in just fairly well with D-Manufacturer's other big landscape overhaul, Markran Forest. And now, we have showcased this mod before, so just focusing on this specific update, version 2.9 is a performance update, making performance improvements to the exterior, as well as some new aesthetic changes to the interiors of Kogaroon, and of course, a number of bug fixes. Now, taking a look at a quest mod, Imperial Cult Quest Expansion by DocJ401 was updated to version 1.1 and 1.2 on March 5th and 10th respectively. This was actually Doc J401's first major quest mod release for Morrowind. And basically, what this mod does is it adds approximately about 7 new quests to the Imperial Cult, with new quest givers at each of the different Imperial Cult shrines around Morrowind. These quest givers are actually representatives of the various knighthoods, associated with each of the 9 divines. And they need your help with just various tasks, from teaching mercy to purging cults and just everything in between. Doc J401 has been one of the most exciting, and certainly one of the most prolific new quest modders to join the community in recent years. And Imperial Cult Quest Expansion is a more friendly and immersive addition to the game. Version 1.2, specifically, adds a few new quest solutions, and some difficulty adjustments. We haven't showcased this one properly yet, but, I would just recommend checking it out. Next, we have an update for AATL official mods by the AATL team, which was updated to version 1.0.3 on March 4th of 2024. Known as an addendum to Tamriel lore and originally started by Pikachu no TM, AATL has grown into one of the core data asset repositories in the community, like OBE data and Tamriel data. It is the smallest of the community's asset repositories, but it is home to a number of high-quality assets that are of particular use to modders. AATL Official Mods is a collection of mods built largely by Pikachu no TM, including quest mods like A Merchant's Whim, dungeon mods like Sumeri's Ancestral Tomb Remastered, various item mods, and even a couple of graphics replaces. There are some just pretty neat mods in this package, and the 1.0.3 update merges all these mods into an all-in-one installer, though you can still just pick and choose which ones you want. There's some fun content in this collection, and it is definitely worth taking a look at. Finally, our last major update is Kezma's Voices of Ardenfell by Kezma and Teolo, which was updated to version 0.2.2 on March 5th of 2024. Most of you are probably already familiar with Voices of Ardenfell. It is a rather large and ambitious project that aims to use AI voices to fully voice the entire game of Morrowind, which is quite the undertaking. This particular update brings Voices of Ardenfell to covering about 60% of all dialogue in the vanilla game. And while Kezma does already have a video showcase of this mod in action, which you can find up in the cards, we'll give it just a quick listen.
Food and beds, or both at the same time? Your choice. I am Dralasa Ramothran, publican. We've got local fare. It's filling and priced to move. We've got the local brews, grief, sheen, maste, and sujama. They're cheap and full of kick. I've got the good stuff, too, behind the counter. Cyrodiilic brandy and Flynn. But it ain't cheap. The local Dunmer liquor, Sujama, is extremely potent, and indulgence results in elevated spirits and diminished mental faculties. Has a kick like a guar, very strong and just as stupid. Talk to everyone. Talk is cheap. Ask questions. You don't ask, you never learn.
The Legions hire qualified recruits of proven skill and character, and provide training, goods, and services at discounts. The lower ranks are common troopers and officers, but the upper ranks include the orders of the Imperial Knights. And how do you think it was that bloated Imperial plutocrats got the charter to exploit the Caldera ebony deposits, and not a native great house or local colonist? Big fat bribes, I tell you, and friends in high places. I've never seen a successful adventurer who didn't carry a couple of divine intervention scrolls with him on long expeditions. 2 reasons: emergency exit, and it lets you move a lot more loot than you can carry on foot. And faster goes without saying.
What do you want?
I am Vidam Dren, Duke of Vardenfell. Welcome to Ebonheart, Outlander. I am Lord Vedam Dren, Duke of Ebonheart and Vardenfell. I am a noble, a leader and diplomat. Don't make enemies. If someone is determined to be your enemy, then fight. But do not turn friends or potential friends into enemies through arrogance or carelessness. Orvus Dren is my brother. I don't know what you've heard of him. I won't defend everything he's done, but don't become his enemy. Yes, he is my brother. I'm Duke Vedam Dren. The other Grand Council members are with me here. Rufinus Aleus is the Imperial Magistrate. Cavortius Albutian is the head of the Imperial Guard, my Palace Guard. Frald the White, Knight Bachelor of the Imperial Legion, is the head of the Hawkmoth Legion garrison. Lalatia Varian is the head priest of the castle's Imperial Cult Shrine. The wealthy Canctunian Ponius is the chief factor and banker of the East Empire Company.
Step right up, Outlander, and look over my collection of scrolls. How about the flashy and cheap Taldum Scorcher to burn your foes? Or Ondusi's Unhinging to open stuck chests and doors? If you're going somewhere dangerous, try some Scrolls of Vitality and Vigor to restore your health and fatigue. If you're in real trouble, you'll want Almsivi Intervention or Divine Intervention to transport you instantly to the nearest temple or nearest Imperial Shrine.
The Mages Guild is a professional organization chartered by the Emperor to promote study of the arcane arts. And it's where you go to find wizards for hire. Training, goods and services are cheaper for members, and the guild stewards know where to find work. If you're thinking of making wizardry your profession, you should join and work your way up the ranks. Look for guild halls in Balmora, Aldrun, Wolverine Hall in Sadrith Mora, and the Foreign Quarter in Vivek.
Welcome to Balmora, council seat of House Hlalu. How can I serve you? We've had peace and prosperity in Morrowind under the Empire for centuries. It's a government by law, and the legions enforce that law. The Empire has free trade and free religion, so we're rich in pockets and in spirit. Yes, there is corruption. Yes, there are crimes and criminals. Yes, the rich get richer, and the poor poorer. But overall, things are pretty good. South Wall is a working-class corner club in Balmora, east of Odai River, on the south end of Labor Street, owned by Bacola Closius. Bacola Closius is the owner and proprietor of South Wall, a working-class Balmora corner club east of the Odai River.
And that's pretty much everything for the major updates of March 2024. Obviously, this is just a sampling. There's always hundreds of updates every month. But this should give you just an idea of the major highlights. But with that, we are done with the best mods of March 2024. Stay tuned for new videos covering April and May. And as always, links for all the mods shown can be found just right down below. And real quick, I would just like to take a moment to thank our patrons, including Aesthetic JMac, Alexis, Area 5/SymbolMean, Billy Fighter, Carter Canterbury, Kiwi, Cyprinius, Danae, Daliant, Danina, Dennis418, Exovian, Yame Alcazo Castornau, Julian, Corridor, Langastia, Lord Brenny, Macbone, Melchior Dog, Millord, Michael, Mr. the Joshman, Null Cascade, Old Navy Twidget, Operator Jack, Ormus the Bard, Porcuse, Povio Hello, Raven Talon, Arfuso, Rissalee, Sand Gentleman, Shadowbash Wine, Shooter, Circuit Cat, Stiff Kitten, Talvani with 1,000 nicknames, Tezrel, Two-Timing Traumaroot, Tyra Rain, Voodtot, and Xero Fox. If you'd like to join them, check out our rewards, including early access, behind-the-scenes content, and access to polls to decide what kind of content we showcase, visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/MorrowindModding. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, happy modding, and I'll see you all next time.